you have a small school with 400 children over here. The largest portion of any budget with the education system is actually the salaries. That's the major money spent, is the actual salaries. And naturally, you're going to have several, a lot more as far as teachers to go in to this larger school. And that's going to play into the overall balance of it.
Okay.
When you say funding, that should be applied. And also take into account this. When you hire teachers on experience, they get, they have steps built in. So after they've worked 5 years, they get a step increase. So basically your budget is going to vary significantly based on the experience of your staff. So equal funding is an easy thing to say and an equal thing to, and I'm not saying you're providing an excuse for anything, but it's an easy thing to blame when I don't believe it's that cut and dry. There are areas that are. I get that, and I know that.
I am saying from a conceptual standpoint, conceptual. If you want to make that law mandatory across the board at college entry level, based on your grades, if you have a better grade than anyone, regardless of the color of their skin, then you get accepted. I say, okay, I'm for that law, Dean, if student for student, let's get past the salaries, all of the bells and whistles. Let's go from student for student. If they got the same education as that child that they're going against at the 18-year-old level across the board, then let's make that a law. If they haven't, let's not make it a law because it's not there.
How do we measure?
Well, how you measure you have to find a way.
Whether you and I had the same education in elementary school?
We go to the same school.
No, I'm saying if we have.
That's why. That's how. We go to the same school.
We don't send all the kids to one school?
No. But if you can fund the schools equally, if you fund the schools equally, pound for pound, if you want to use that.
So per child, you're saying have a number per child that every school gets?
And so forth proportionally to the budget. Let's just say that, you have teachers in your school that are paid $50 grand a year. I have teachers in my school that I'm paying $40 grand a year, right? And we each have 10 students, 10 teachers. If you have your teachers getting paid more, then you get paid $110,000 to fund your school. I get paid, my teachers are less, 40 grand. So I'm getting paid 100 grand. It all equals out because the student is still getting his
the same amount for the books,
pound for pound, pound for pound for the education,
minus the
salaries and expenditures and things of that.
Oh, absolutely, that's a gift. That should be equal.
All right. So if
and I doubt it's as widespread as you would think.
I'm sure it is because I remember not too here recent when they had to pass a referendum in Jasper County because the school was caving in. The books were 5 years old. It was a disaster over there. They had to pass a referendum to have more taxes just so this area where it's predominantly black had to get more funding for schools. So it's today. It's not.
Was it site-based management where it was up to the individual principal to do the ordering there, or do you know?
I don't know. Okay. I know that they were in a bad spot.
Because as any business, a lot of school systems, they utilize site-based management, giving the principals the authority to do quite a bit there, and they're responsible. And just like any business, there are, unfortunately, there's good.
All right, so our next call comes from Chris on another post. He says that some of us African Americans were told as children that we had to do everything twice as good as a white person in order to be considered equal, and that we would always be overly scrutinized. President Obama has not completed even 1 year in office, and already you are proclaiming that he has proven to be an unmitigated disaster. Now, Chris made this comment in response to a person on Facebook after some comments that she made, and that's what he had mentioned. So, what do you think about that?
Just absolutely think that's just ridiculous.
Of course.
I think that Chris's parents had to do things twice as good because Chris's grandparents lived a life of hell, and his parents were probably most likely born in a life of discrimination. But Chris, I believe, is pretty close to our age, so Chris actually was born in a time where he's very much protected and has advantages, in my opinion, over me as a white guy. And as far as President Obama, that part to me is just ridiculous. That's just nasty politics, which happens in general.
What piece is not
The part that's ridiculous is people's over-scrutinizing him because insinuating basically because he's a black man within his first year, and that's done to everybody. That's Democrat and Republican.
Well, the point that he was
stuff.
making,
That's
the point that he was making here, he said that
politics.
That the person said that he was already proven to be an unmitigated disaster. Do you agree with that point?
I think that people were calling Bush a terrorist.
Obama hasn't been in office in a year. He hasn't been in office in even a year yet. So he's an unmitigated disaster.
I would like to think that he's not, because, God, we got to live with him 3 more years, you know?
So
I hope there's more to it than he's displayed at this point, Craig, because at this point, he's not a disaster. He's been a lot of hot air that knows how to tell people just what they want to hear,
Like
and gets nothing done. Yeah,
so you don't,
much like many other ones and white ones.
So you don't agree with that, or you do agree with this person's comment?
I agree that it's terrible to bring a hammer down on anybody after 1 year when they have 4 to fix it. But I disagree wholeheartedly that it has to do because this person is black. That's national nasty politics where the wrath of God is poured down, all hell breaks loose on any person who happens to win the presidency of the United States. That's the nasty politics of Democrats and Republicans. It's nothing to do with the man's skin color. And again, I have a lot of respect for this gentleman here and his thoughts, and I appreciate his opinion there, but that is looking into a situation of color much more than needed.
Okay, you said
it's nasty national
all right. You said in the opening part of your statement that Chris is probably a little older than we are, and you said that he has probably not been discriminated against.
Not said that.
Or he has not been.
I said that he did not grow up at a time where he had to perform twice as good. He grew up at a time where he was protected more than me, the white man.
Okay.
So he can actually do a little less than me and get the job over me.
Absolutely.
Because the laws are structured towards racism against me.
Okay, let me tell you another comment that I saw Chris made on this very thread. When Chris was in, he had mentioned that in his lifetime, obviously, because he was in grade school, and he was told by a teacher that a B was good for a black boy.
Well, then he had a stupid teacher.
There's a lot of stupid people in
I
America.
was pushed in a wall by a white teacher.
I'm telling you,
she jacked me up, told me she didn't like me. That was an idiot teacher. Had nothing to do.
It has nothing to do with race.